Chapter 5 of the Iliad. This is on page 141 of your textbook. Patroclus convinces Achilles to let him lead the Myrmidons into battle. Wearing Achilles' armor, Patroclus pushes the Trojans away from the Greek ships and back toward Troy. Finally, Hector kills him. When dawn, the rosy-fingered, shone forth upon gods and mortals, the war resumed. Just as reapers push into one another as they move through a rich farmer's field of wheat or barley, and many handfuls of grain quickly fall about them, so the bronze-coated Greeks and the horse-taming Trojans leapt upon each other and cut one another down with no thought of retreat. Neither side gave in to the other, and they tore on like wolves. Achilles stood at the stern of his black ship, watching the return of injured Greeks. Calling his closest friend to him, Achilles said, "Good Patroclus, dearest to my heart, I think the Greeks soon will be praying at my knees for me to help them, for they appear to be in great trouble. Go ask Nestor whom he has brought wounded from the field. I fear it is our doctor, and that, indeed, would be a cause of fear and grief." When Patroclus questioned Nestor, the king of Pylos asked him, "Does Achilles suddenly pity the Greeks? Does he care that many of our greatest warriors are lying by their hollow ships, sorely wounded by arrows or spears?" Nestor then told Patroclus, "I remember that when Odysseus and I came to Phthia to ask Achilles to join wide-ruling Agamemnon and the other Greek leaders, your father told you to be your dear friend's advisor. Although Achilles is stronger than you are older and, therefore, wiser than he is. Counsel him now. Perhaps he will take your words into his heart. And if, perhaps, some prophecy of his mother is restraining Achilles from fighting, let him place his armor upon you and permit you to lead the Myrmidons into battle. With godlike Achilles' armor upon you, the Trojans may think that you are indeed he, and they may retreat in fear." Then Nestor concluded, "The Greeks need a chance to rest, for they are weary with fighting. Your countrymen are so well rested that it will be easy for you to push the tired Trojans back from our huts and our ships across the plain toward Troy." So Nestor of sandy Pylos, in his wisdom, put fire into the heart of good Patroclus. The Trojans, who had been fighting by the wall the Greeks had constructed to protect their huts and their ships, suddenly pushed forward. Just as a great wave upon the salt sea is forced by the fury of the strong wind into a mighty swell and rushes down upon the decks of a ship and engulfs it, so the Trojans, with a loud war cry, drove their chariots over the defensive wall to the sterns of the Greek ships. They fought the Greeks there face to face. As a starving mountain lion courageously enters a well-built sheepfold to seize its prey, and although it sees that the shepherds are prepared to defend the sheep with their swift spears and their dogs, it is determined to capture a sheep or else die in the attempt. So did man-slaying Hector of the great war cry put courage into the hearts of the Trojans and lead them to set fire to the hollow ships of the Greeks. By the time Patroclus reached Achilles, he was in tears. The son of Peleus pitied him and asked, "Patroclus, dearest of friends, why are you weeping like a little girl who runs by her mother's side and slows her down by pulling at her robe and tearfully crying up at her until her mother picks her up? Have you heard that your father or mine has died? Or are you grieving for the bronze-coated Greeks who are being killed beside their black ships because of their arrogance?" Then did great-hearted Patroclus foolishly relate to Achilles the plight of the Greeks and his wish to lead the Myrmidons into battle in Achilles' place, for he did not realize that he was, in fact, pleading for his own death. Patroclus's words weighed upon Achilles' heart, and he replied, "Dear Patroclus, it is not my mother's prophecy that keeps me from battle. I simply could not let a man who is my equal seize my prize of honor just because he is more powerful than I am. I did not intend to be angry forever, but I did say that I would not rejoin the Greeks until Hector threatened my own ships. However," Achilles relented, "put my shining armor upon your shoulders, if that is your wish, and lead the war-loving Myrmidons into battle yourself. Drive the Trojans from the hollow ships, for if they burn the ships, the Greeks will have no way to return home. Win enough glory that the Greeks will return Briseis to me, along with many impressive gifts, but not so much glory that your success will lessen my own value and my own honor. Although you love the war cry, once you have cleared the Trojans from the ships and have sent them in retreat across the plain toward Troy, return to me." When Patroclus, wearing the armor of Achilles, was ready to depart with the Myrmidons, Achilles prayed to Zeus, "Lord of Olympus, in the past you have heard my prayers. You have honored me and you have brought destruction upon the Greeks. Now hear my prayer again. I am sending my dearest friend into war with my Myrmidons. Grant him success and glory, but when he has driven the Trojans from the hollow ships, let him return uninjured to me." So Achilles, son of Peleus, prayed, and Zeus, lord of counsel, heard him. He permitted Patroclus to drive the Trojans from the swift black ships, but he did not permit him a safe return from battle. With Patroclus in the lead, the war-loving Myrmidons marched into battle. Patroclus cried, "Myrmidons, friends of Achilles, courageously win honor for the son of Peleus, so that the wide-ruling Agamemnon will realize how blind he was when he dishonored the best of the Greeks." So Patroclus put strength and courage into the hearts of the Myrmidons as they joyfully prepared to attack the Trojans. Like wasps along the wayside that swarm angrily from their nests when young boys foolishly torment them for the fun of it, so the Myrmidons swarmed upon the Trojans with a great war cry. When the Trojans saw Patroclus in Achilles' shining armor, fear entered each man's heart, for they thought that godlike Achilles himself would soon be upon them. They gave way before the Myrmidons and considered how best to escape total destruction. Just as a winter rainstorm is at its peak causes swift, swollen rivers to wash away whatever lines their banks, so Patroclus raged across the plain, causing many Trojans to fall beneath his sharp spear. If he had remembered to return to the ships, as Achilles had counseled him, he would have avoided his fate. However, blind in his heart, he forgot the words of his dearest friend and foolishly pressed on across the plain toward Troy. Then the bronze-coated Greeks would indeed have captured high-gated Troy under the leadership of Patroclus, but Apollo came down from Mount Olympus to stand upon the well-built wall and help his favorites. 3 times Patroclus climbed upon a corner of the high wall, and 3 times the lord of the silver bow raised his immortal hands, pushed against Patroclus's shining shield, and threw him back. When Patroclus, undaunted, made a 4th attempt to climb the wall, Apollo stopped him with a terrifying cry. Then he said, "Give up, Patroclus. It is not your fate to sack the great city of Priam with your spear, nor will swift-footed Achilles destroy this city, and he is a far better man than you are." Patroclus obeyed Apollo's command, having no intention of angering the far-shooter. Meanwhile, Hector of the flashing helm was standing at the Scaean gates and wondering whether it would be better to continue the fighting or to summon the Trojans inside the well-defended walls. Apollo assumed the form of Hector's uncle and said, "Godlike Hector, why are you not fighting? It is not honorable to stand about idly while others are winning glory for themselves and their fathers. If I were strong enough, I would punish you for your cowardice. Now drive your horses toward Patroclus and kill him. Then Apollo, the far-shooter, will give you glory." So spoke Apollo, and Hector returned to the battle. As long as the sun was high in the sky, the spears and arrows of Greeks and Trojans took an even toll. But when the sun revealed that the time had come to unyoke the oxen and stable them for the evening, then the bronze-coated Greeks took the lead. 3 times Patroclus, shouting the great war cry, killed 9 men. As he raged on for the 4th time, far-shooting Apollo enveloped himself in a thick mist and came up behind Patroclus. Unseen, the lord of the silver bow took his immortal hand and struck the warrior on the back with such a mighty force that his eyes whirled in his head. Then he knocked Patroclus's helmet to the ground, where it clattered as it rolled beneath the feet of the horses, and its horsehair crest became covered with blood and dust. Still, Apollo was not finished with Patroclus. The warrior's bronze-tipped, far-shadowing spear broke apart in his hands, and his shield fell to the ground, his armor loosened. Then his mind became blind, and as he was standing senseless, a Trojan came up behind him and speared him in the back. However, even this wound did not kill Patroclus. Man-slaying Hector then approached and drove his spear clear through Patroclus's stomach. Just as a mountain lion overpowers a mighty boar when the two fight upon a mountain-top for the right to drink from a little spring, so did Hector, godlike son of Priam, end good Patroclus's life. Standing over the fallen body of his enemy, Hector said, "Patroclus, you thought that you would sack Troy. You wanted to make slaves of our women and return with them to your homeland. You were a fool. Instead, vultures will feed upon your flesh. Even your dear friend Achilles, with all his courage, strength, and skill, could not help you. He must have commanded you to kill me. He muddled your good sense." The dying Patroclus replied, "You can boast about my death only because Zeus and Apollo first subdued me. Otherwise, if 20 Hectors had attacked me, I would have killed them all with my spear. You were not first but third in my slaying. And remember this well, Patroclus concluded. You yourself do not have long to live, for it is your fate to be killed by Achilles. Even now your death is very close at hand. With these words, Patroclus's shade left his body and went down to the kingdom of Hades. Hector replied to the dead Patroclus, Why do you prophesy my death? Maybe I will kill the son of Peleus. He then removed Achilles' shining armor from Patroclus and took it for himself. He would have dragged off Patroclus's body as food for the dogs of Troy, but Ajax took his shield, which was like a wall, and defended the corpse. The bronze-coated Greeks then fought the horse-taming Trojans for the body of Achilles' friend. All day long the battle raged. Just as a man gives the hide of a great bull, soaked in fat, to his people to stretch, and they arrange themselves in a circle where they stand and pull it until the moisture evaporates. The fat penetrates the skin, and the hide is completely stretched out. So the Greeks on one side and the Trojans on the other pulled the body of Patroclus first this way and then that, until, at long last, the Greeks were able to carry his corpse back to the hollow ships. That was the Iliad, chapter 5.